I am Lauren Mitchell, 38 years old. On the night of my father's funeral, I stood frozen as my uncle read the will aloud, his voice echoing through the dimly lit study. My heart pounded harder with every word until he reached the line that shattered me. All assets, property, and inheritance will be left to Michael Mitchell, my beloved son. My brother. My father had left me nothing. The mahogany-paneled room felt colder than the desert nights outside in Phoenix. A fire crackled in the fireplace, but its warmth didn't touch me. Relatives sat in leather chairs, their faces a blend of sympathy and curiosity, some trying to avoid my eyes while others leaned in, whispering about my disgrace. I clutched the edges of my black dress, nails digging into the fabric, my throat dry and burning. My brother Michael smirked across the room, his hand resting smugly on the arm of my mother's chair, as if he had been crowned king of the family. My mother didn't look at me. Not once. She kept her gaze fixed on the floor, her silence cutting deeper than the words in that will. For years, I had believed that even if my father and I clashed, my mother would stand by me. Instead, she sat there like a stone statue, while Michael basked in victory. Before I share how this betrayal unfolded, let me know where you are watching from and subscribe if you value standing up for yourself. My childhood had always been complicated. Phoenix was home, but it was also a place where I constantly felt like I had to earn my worth. My father, Harry Mitchell, was a successful real estate developer who built half the neighborhoods in our city. To most people, he was a man of vision and power. To me, he was a man of rules, expectations, and disappointment. Michael, 3 years younger than me, was the golden child. From the time we were little, he was treated like a prince. He barely lifted a finger, yet my father praised him endlessly. He played baseball for a season in high school, hit 1 home run, and my father told the story at every business dinner for years. Meanwhile, I worked hard to graduate at the top of my class, but my accomplishments were always brushed aside. "Lauren, you're smart, but Michael has charm," my father once said, after I showed him my scholarship acceptance letter. "Charm takes you further in life than brains ever will." It was as if my existence was always a shadow to Michael's spotlight. Still, I thought my father respected me deep down. I thought my years of working as an accountant, saving every penny, and helping pay for Mom's medical treatments when Michael disappeared with excuses would matter. I thought the nights I stayed at Dad's side during his heart complications, while Michael was out drinking and laughing, would count for something. But sitting there in that study, hearing his voice posthumously strip me of everything, I realized I had been wrong. The humiliation was suffocating. My cousins stared at me with pity, some even with relief that it wasn't them. The weight of betrayal settled in my chest like a boulder. I remember whispering, "There must be a mistake." Uncle Charles shook his head, sliding his glasses down his nose as he double-checked the paper. It's signed, dated, and notarized. Harry was very clear in his wishes. Michael leaned back in his chair, his lips twitching into a grin he tried to hide but couldn't. "Guess Dad knew who could handle the responsibility," he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. The words burned. Responsibility? He had never carried responsibility a single day in his life. I wanted to scream, to flip the table, to claw back what was mine, but all I could do was sit there in silence, my face hot, my hands trembling. My voice wouldn't come out. After the reading, relatives mingled in the kitchen, murmuring about the estate. My father's mansion, his cars, the bank accounts, the vacation home in Sedona, all now belonged to Michael. It wasn't just money, it was legacy. It was the very foundation of our family name, handed to someone who had never earned it. I slipped outside into the chilly night air, needing space to breathe. The desert sky stretched endlessly above me, stars twinkling like distant reminders of the dreams I once had. I remembered being 12 years old, standing on this very patio, promising myself that one day I'd take over the family business and prove I could carry it forward. That promise now lay shattered at my feet. "Lauren." I turned to see my mother standing in the doorway, her face pale under the porch light. For a fleeting moment, I thought she might comfort me, tell me she had fought for me. Instead, she said softly, "Your father made his choice. Don't make this harder than it already is." My chest tightened. "You knew? You knew he was cutting me out? She looked away, silent. Her silence was louder than any answer. I choked on a bitter laugh. Of course you did. And you said nothing. She pressed her lips together, then turned back into the house, leaving me alone in the desert night with nothing but grief and fury. That night was the beginning of something inside me breaking, and something else being born. As I drove back to my small apartment in Phoenix, past streets lined with houses my father had built, I clenched the steering wheel until my knuckles whitened. I had nothing left from him. Not his money, not his legacy, not even his respect. But I had one thing, my determination. I remembered my father's voice in the hospital, telling me once, "You'll never have the grit it takes to run things. You're too soft, Lauren." That memory replayed like a cruel echo. Too soft. I swore to myself as I drove through the darkened city lights. I'll prove him wrong. I'll build something bigger than he ever imagined. And when Michael stumbles, and he will, I'll be there to take everything back. My betrayal was complete, but so was my resolve. By the time I reached home, it was past midnight. I stood in the mirror of my cramped bathroom, staring at the mascara-streaked woman looking back at me. For a moment, I saw defeat. Then slowly, I saw fire. The betrayal had cut me down, but it also planted a seed. One day I would rise. One day they would regret underestimating me. I wiped my tears, took a deep breath, and whispered to my reflection. This isn't the end. It's only the beginning. The days after the will reading felt like wandering through a storm with no shelter. I went to work at the small fitness studio where I taught evening classes, but my mind wasn't there. I moved through the motions of counting reps and correcting posture, smiling at clients while inside I felt hollow. Every night, I came home to my modest apartment, sat at my tiny kitchen table, and replayed the betrayal in my head like a broken record. Michael now lived in the mansion, my childhood home. He drove Dad's prized silver Mercedes around Phoenix as if he'd earned it. Photos began popping up on social media. Michael lounging by the pool with friends, Michael holding parties in the grand living room, Michael posing in front of Dad's framed achievements. Each image was another twist of the knife. I tried ignoring it, but bitterness grew like a weed inside me. My friends at work noticed. "You okay, Lauren?" asked Katie, a fellow coach, one evening after class. "I'm fine," I lied, grabbing my water bottle. Just tired, but I wasn't fine. I was angry. One night I sat on my couch staring at the ceiling, and something shifted. I realized that if I didn't channel my rage into something, it would eat me alive. My father had taken everything from me, but he couldn't take my willpower. He couldn't take my strength. That night, I opened my laptop and started researching small business grants, savings plans, and loans. I knew the fitness studio life wasn't going to give me the future I wanted. I needed more, something of my own, something that could grow beyond me. I thought back to the years of helping my mom with medical expenses, budgeting every dollar, planning every bill. Numbers didn't scare me, and fitness, that was my passion. I had always dreamed of opening my own gym, a space that wasn't just about building muscle, but about building confidence. The idea lit a spark in me. Still, the road ahead wasn't easy. My savings account barely had $12,000, and Phoenix real estate wasn't cheap, even for renting. Banks didn't exactly throw money at a single woman with modest income and no family backing her. I faced rejection after rejection. Not enough collateral. Too risky. Come back when you have an investor. Each no felt like another door slamming in my face. But I refused to stop. I picked up more classes at the studio, sometimes working 14-hour days. I started freelancing as a personal trainer, biking across town with dumbbells in my backpack to train clients in their garages and backyards. My body ached every night, but with each dollar saved, I felt closer to freedom. Katie noticed my hustle. "You're insane, Lauren," she said one morning as I dragged myself into the studio, yawning. "You're going to burn out." "Better to burn out than rust away," I muttered, tying my shoelaces. Months passed. Slowly, my account grew, but it still wasn't enough. Then came the turning point. One of my freelance clients, a retired teacher named Mr. Alvarez, saw something in me. He was in his late 60s with gray hair and a stubborn streak that matched mine. After one of our sessions, he said, "You've got fire, Lauren. What are you building toward?" I hesitated, then told him my dream of opening a gym. He listened carefully, nodding. "Show me your business plan," he said. I almost laughed. "What business plan?" "Then make one," he replied firmly. "If you're serious, put it on paper. Numbers, projections, the whole deal. Don't come back until you have it." His words struck me. For the first time, someone demanded I take myself seriously. That night, I sat down with notebooks, charts, and spreadsheets. I outlined my vision. A gym that blended traditional training with classes for seniors, teens, and people recovering from injuries. A place for everyone, not just the fit and flashy. It took me weeks, but I built that plan. I showed it to Mr. Alvarez, expecting him to pat me on the back and send me away. Instead, he smiled. "You've got something here," he said. "I'll invest." I blinked. "What?" "No, you don't even know if it'll work," he chuckled. "Lauren, I've spent my life teaching kids who had less than nothing. What they needed wasn't just money, it was belief. You need someone to believe in you, so I will. I've got savings, and I want to put them into something real. Let's do this." I cried that night, holding the contract in my hands. For the first time in months, I felt hope. With his support and my savings combined, I leased a rundown warehouse on the edge of town. It was dusty, the roof leaked, and half the mirrors were cracked. But to me, it was a palace. I rolled up my sleeves and started working. Katie, Mr. Alvarez, and even a few of my clients came to help paint walls, haul equipment, and scrub floors. It was grueling, but every stroke of paint, every cleaned corner, felt like stitching together the pieces of my broken pride. The day we opened the doors, I stood under the glowing sign, Phoenix Rise Gym. It wasn't huge. It wasn't fancy, but it was mine. At first, business was slow. A handful of people trickled in, curious but hesitant. I fought off doubt every day. What if this failed? What if my father had been right, and I wasn't strong enough? But then something amazing happened. Word spread. My gym wasn't like the glossy, intimidating chains downtown. It was warm, welcoming. Seniors loved our low-impact classes. Teens found a safe place after school. Moms brought their kids to train alongside them. Slowly, my gym became a community. One evening, as I locked up, Katie grinned at me. "Look around, Lauren. You built this." I did. And for the first time since the will reading, I realized I didn't need my father's inheritance to matter. I was creating something bigger than his money ever could. Yet deep down, I couldn't ignore the shadow of Michael. Every success reminded me of what he had stolen from me. I knew one day our paths would collide again, and when that day came, I swore I would be ready. The first 6 months at Phoenix Rise Gym tested me harder than any workout I had ever done. I thought opening the doors was the hard part, but running a business was a whole new battlefield. Rent payments came every month without fail, while clients came inconsistently. Some days, the gym felt alive with energy and laughter. Other days, it was just me, staring at empty mats, wondering if I had made the biggest mistake of my life. I refused to give in. I doubled down. I made flyers and walked through neighborhoods, slipping them into mailboxes. I stood outside supermarkets, handing out free trial cards. I offered the first class free for anyone who came through the doors. I taught from morning until night, sometimes barely eating between sessions. Katie watched me closely. "You're going to collapse if you keep this up," she warned. I shook my head. If I don't push harder than anyone else, this place won't survive. And I refused to let it die. Slowly, word began to spread. A local blogger wrote about our inclusive classes. Parents told other parents. Seniors told their friends at community centers. The trickle became a stream. By the 1-year mark, we weren't just breaking even. We were thriving. I reinvested every spare dollar into the gym. New equipment, better flooring, a child-friendly area with colorful mats. I wanted Phoenix Rise to be more than a gym. I wanted it to be a second home for people who felt left out elsewhere. The more the gym grew, the more I grew too. My shoulders carried not just weights but responsibility. For the first time in my life, I wasn't defined by what my father thought of me or by what Michael had stolen. I was defining myself. Still, Every time I drove by my childhood neighborhood, the mansion loomed like a ghost. I avoided it as much as I could, but sometimes curiosity won. I'd park at the end of the street and just look at it from a distance. Through the tall gates, I could sometimes see Michael's car. Lights glowed in the rooms where I had once done homework, played piano, or cried after fights with Dad. Each glimpse was a reminder of what was taken. One evening, I stayed longer than usual, staring at the windows. Then a black SUV pulled up. Michael stepped out, dressed in a sharp suit, holding a briefcase. He looked older, thicker around the middle, but smugness oozed from every step. 2 women got out behind him, laughing. He draped his arm around one of them and walked inside. Something inside me burned. Not just jealousy, resolve. I whispered to myself, "Enjoy it while you can, Michael. Your time will come." As the gym expanded, I realized I needed help beyond Katie and Mr. Alvarez. I hired trainers, receptionists, and even a nutrition coach. Each new face brought energy, but also new challenges. One trainer, Jordan, questioned my leadership constantly. "You should focus on building only elite athletes," he argued. "Forget the casuals and old folks, they don't pay as much." I fired him on the spot. Phoenix Rise was built for everyone. I wouldn't let greed destroy what I'd started. Instead, I brought in someone who understood my vision. A young mom named Serena, who had struggled with postpartum depression and rebuilt herself through fitness. She lit up the room with her energy, and clients loved her. "This gym saved me," she confessed one evening while wiping down mats. "I don't just work here, Lauren. I belong here." Her words reminded me why I had started. This wasn't just a business. It was a family. 2 years in, something I hadn't expected happened. The gym began to gain media attention. A local news station did a feature on small businesses uplifting communities, and Phoenix Rise was front and center. They filmed our classes, interviewed me, and even aired a segment during prime time. The very next week, membership doubled. People walked in saying, "I saw you on TV." With growth came new opportunities. Investors began circling, offering to buy in. Some wanted to franchise immediately, to turn Phoenix Rise into a chain. I considered it, but something inside told me to wait. Expanding too fast could destroy everything I'd built. Instead, I focused on building deeper roots. I started scholarships for underprivileged teens, offering them free memberships. I partnered with a local rehab clinic to provide physical training for recovering patients. The gym became not just about money, but about impact. Mr. Alvarez beamed at me one evening as we locked up. "See, I told you. That fire of yours, it's unstoppable," I smiled. "Thanks to you, I had the chance to prove it." But success didn't erase the bitterness of betrayal. It only sharpened it, because with success came recognition. My name started appearing in newspapers, magazines, and blogs. And guess who noticed? Michael. The first time he showed up at the gym, I almost didn't recognize him. He walked in wearing an expensive suit, gold watch glinting under the lights, his cologne filling the air. People stared, whispering. "Lauren," he said, his voice smooth as ever. "It's been a while." My stomach churned. "What are you doing here, Michael?" He smiled like a politician. "I heard about your little gym. Impressive, really. You've come a long way from—" "Well, nothing." His words dripped with condescension. My fists clenched, but I forced a calm tone. "What do you want?" "I want in," he said simply. "I've got money, connections. We could expand this place nationwide. Imagine Phoenix Rise in every city. You need me." The audacity stunned me. The man who had stolen my inheritance, my home, my father's approval, now standing in front of me, asking to share my success. I laughed bitterly. "You want in? After everything?" "No, Michael. You had your chance at family. You don't get a second chance here." His smile faltered, but only for a second. "You'll regret this," he said softly, before turning and walking out. That night, I sat in my office long after everyone left, staring at the darkened gym. My heart pounded with anger, but beneath it all, I felt something else. Satisfaction. Michael had once looked at me like I was worthless. Now he was coming to me for opportunities. The tables were beginning to turn. Still, I knew my fight wasn't over. Michael wasn't the type to walk away quietly. He'd be back, with schemes, with tricks, with the arrogance that had always defined him. But I wasn't the same Lauren he had once dismissed. I wasn't the girl begging for scraps of approval. I was stronger now. As I locked the door and walked into the cool Phoenix night, I whispered to myself, "This is just the beginning." The morning after Michael's visit, I walked into the gym with a pit in my stomach. The air smelled of disinfectant and rubber mats, but instead of feeling like my safe space, the place felt invaded. His smug face lingered in my thoughts, the echo of his words replaying, "You'll regret this." I tried to shake it off. The day was packed with classes, yoga at 9, a boot camp at 11, kids boxing at 1. I needed to focus, but my mind wouldn't stop circling the fact that Michael had walked into my world, bold as ever, like nothing had happened. Katie noticed my distraction as she set up for her Pilates class. "You're quiet today. What's going on?" I sighed, leaning against the counter. "Michael came yesterday. To the gym." Her eyes widened. "What? What did he want?" I explained everything. The smirk, the offer, the insult disguised as a compliment. Katie's jaw tightened. "He's testing you," she said firmly. "He thinks he can intimidate you, or worm his way back into control. You can't let him." I nodded, though my chest still felt heavy. Michael didn't waste time making his next move. By the end of the week, glossy posters appeared in the neighborhood. They advertised a brand new fitness center, ironically named Titan Elite Gym, opening only a few miles away. The bold letters read, "Luxury Training. Elite results. Don't settle for less." The implication was obvious. Phoenix Rise wasn't elite enough. Clients brought in the flyers, asking questions. "Are you affiliated with this new place? Will you be merging?" I forced a calm smile. "No, Phoenix Rise is independent. We're here to stay." Inside, though, my blood boiled. Michael hadn't just dismissed my refusal. He'd declared war. The grand opening of Titan Elite was a spectacle. Billboards lined the freeway. A local influencer live-streamed from the sparkling lobby filled with chrome machines and neon lights. Michael gave interviews about revolutionizing the fitness experience. I watched clips online, teeth grinding. He wore the same smug smile he'd worn in my gym, only now it was aimed at the cameras. Reporters asked about his background. "My family has always valued fitness and discipline," he said smoothly. "I'm just carrying on that tradition. No mention of me. No mention of Phoenix Rise." He was rewriting history, as if I had never existed. The effects rippled almost immediately. Some clients left, lured by Titan Elite's sleek design and promises of luxury. A couple of my trainers even gave notice, enticed by higher pay. One evening, as I closed up, Serena approached me. "Lauren, are we going to be okay? People are talking. They think Titan Elite is going to crush us." I looked her in the eye. "We'll be fine. We're not like them. We don't sell luxury. We sell community. That's something money can't buy." She nodded, but I could see the doubt in her eyes. Determined to fight back, I launched my own campaign. Not with flashy billboards or influencers, but with real stories. We filmed clients talking about how Phoenix Rise had changed their lives. A grandmother who lost 60 pounds and gained the energy to play with her grandkids. A teenager who overcame bullying by finding strength in kickboxing. A veteran who used fitness to cope with PTSD. We shared their stories online, and they resonated deeply. Comments flooded in. "This is real. This is what fitness should be about." Still, Titan Elite's shadow loomed. Their building sparkled, while mine, no matter how clean or cared for, still had cracks in the walls and squeaky treadmills. The first real confrontation happened at a community fitness fair. Both gyms had booths. Titan Elite's was massive, sleek banners, free protein shakes, staff in matching uniforms. Michael stood front and center, shaking hands like a politician. Our booth was simpler. Just a table, a banner with our logo, and photos of our clients' transformations. But we had something Titan Elite didn't: authenticity. Clients showed up wearing Phoenix Rise shirts, sharing their stories with strangers. At one point, Michael strutted over, his entourage following. "Lauren," he said, voice dripping with false sweetness. "I see you're still trying," I crossed my arms, "and I see you're still pretending to care about people." His smile faltered for a second, but he recovered. It's business. You should know that by now. It's more than business, I shot back. It's about people, something you'll never understand. He leaned closer, his voice low. People follow winners, Lauren. And soon they'll see who the real winner is. I stared him down, refusing to blink. We'll see. After the fair, I gathered my team. We can't beat them at their game, I told them. We have to play ours. Titan Elite has money, but we have something stronger, heart. And that's what will keep us alive. The team rallied, their energy rekindled. Serena raised her fist. Phoenix, rise forever. The others cheered, and for a moment, the fear faded. But Michael wasn't finished. A month later, I got a letter from the city. Titan Elite had filed a complaint, claiming our gym violated zoning codes. If proven, we could be shut down. I felt the floor drop beneath me as I read the notice. This wasn't just competition. This was sabotage. Katie stormed into my office when she heard. He's trying to destroy you. He can't win fair, so he's playing dirty. I clenched the paper in my hands. Then we fight back. Legally, professionally, whatever it takes. He's not shutting us down. But deep down, fear gnawed at me. Michael had power, money, and connections. I had grit, but would grit be enough? One night, as I sat alone in the dark gym, I thought back to the mansion, to the day of the will, when Michael stood victorious and I was cast aside. That same smugness now threatened everything I'd built. But then I remembered the faces of my clients, the grandmother, the teenager, the veteran. People who had trusted me with their health, their hopes, their second chances. Michael might have stolen my inheritance, but he wouldn't steal this. I stood, fists clenched, and whispered into the silence. This time, I fight back on my terms. The zoning complaint hung over me like a storm cloud. Every day, I checked the mail with a pounding heart, waiting for updates from the city. Each envelope with the municipal seal made my palms sweat. I'd worked too hard to see Phoenix rise reduced to rubble because of Michael's lies. Katie was relentless in her support. We need to get a lawyer, she urged one morning as we stacked weights in the corner. You can't fight this alone, she was right. I reached out to an attorney recommended by one of our long-term clients. His name was Thomas Reed, a no-nonsense man in his 50s who wore tailored suits, but had the bluntness of a construction worker. After reviewing the complaint, he leaned back in his chair. This is flimsy, he said. Your brother's people are trying to exploit minor technicalities. I've seen this before. They'll drag it out to drain your time and money. But don't worry, you've got a solid case. Relief washed over me, though it was temporary. Even with Thomas on board, the process would be long, expensive, and exhausting. The attacks didn't stop there. A week later, one of our treadmills mysteriously broke down during peak hours. The repairman said it looked tampered with. Then our Yelp page was flooded with suspicious one-star reviews, all posted within 24 hours. I recognized Michael's fingerprints on all of it. He wasn't just competing, he was trying to bury me. One night after locking up, I found graffiti sprayed across the front door in red paint. Closing soon. My stomach twisted with fury. Katie gasped when she saw it the next morning. This is harassment. We should call the police. I nodded, but deep inside I knew the police wouldn't be much help. Michael had money. Money made problems disappear. The weight of it all began seeping into my classes. My usual energy felt strained, my jokes falling flat. Clients noticed. Everything okay, Lauren? One of them asked after boot camp. I forced a smile. Of course. Just tired, but inside I was breaking. At night I lay awake staring at the ceiling, wondering if Phoenix Rise could survive this war. One evening, Serena knocked on my office door after hours. Hey, can I talk to you? She asked softly. I nodded, bracing myself for bad news. Another resignation, maybe. Instead, she said, You inspire us, you know. The whole team. We see how hard you're fighting. Don't think we don't notice. We're with you, Lauren. All the way. Her words cracked something inside me. For the first time in weeks, tears slipped down my cheeks. Thank you, I whispered. That means more than you know. The following Saturday, I decided to turn the tables. Titan Elite was hosting a massive open day, complete with celebrity trainers and giveaways. Everyone in town was buzzing about it. Katie suggested we counter with something different. What if we host a community event? Free classes, healthy cooking demos, maybe a charity fundraiser. Let's show people what makes Phoenix Rise unique. I loved the idea. Within days, we had banners printed. Community Strong, Phoenix Rise Fitness Festival. Clients volunteered to bring food, trainers donated their time, and local businesses pitched in with prizes for raffles. The day of the event, the gym parking lot overflowed with families. Music played, kids bounced in a rented inflatable, and the smell of grilled chicken mixed with fresh fruit filled the air. I taught a boot camp under the sun, sweat pouring but spirits high. People laughed, cheered each other on, and clapped when a group of beginners completed the workout together. At one point, I looked around and felt a surge of pride. This was what Michael could never buy: community, heart, connection. But Michael couldn't stand being outshined. Later that evening, I received an email from him. Subject: cute event message. Enjoy your little block party, Lauren. But let's be real. You're playing small while I'm building an empire. It's only a matter of time before your clients realize they deserve better. Do yourself a favor and close up before you embarrass yourself further. I stared at the screen, anger surging through me. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, ready to fire back something scathing. But then I stopped. Replying would give him what he wanted. Proof that his words got under my skin. Instead, I closed the email, stood up, and walked out into the cool night air. Katie called when she heard about it. "Don't let him pull you into his games," she said. "He's trying to distract you. Stay focused." She was right. I had to channel the rage into fuel, not waste it on him. The zoning battle dragged on for weeks. Every time the city inspector visited, I held my breath. Thomas guided me through paperwork, helped me file responses, and prepared me for hearings. At one point, Michael himself showed up at City Hall during a review session. He sauntered in, shaking hands with officials like he owned the place. When his eyes met mine across the room, he smirked. But when Thomas presented evidence, photographs, compliance records, glowing safety reports, the smirk faltered. The inspector concluded that Phoenix Rise met all requirements. Michael stormed out before the session ended. That night, Thomas called me. "Congratulations," he said. "You won this round. The complaint is dismissed." Relief hit me like a wave. I sank onto my couch, laughing and crying at the same time. Katie came over with a bottle of champagne. "To Phoenix Rise," she toasted. "And to Lauren, who doesn't back down." The victory renewed my fire. I doubled down on improving the gym. We repainted the walls, replaced old equipment, and added new classes. Clients who had drifted to Titan Elite started trickling back, disappointed by its sterile atmosphere. One of them, a young mother named Angela, told me, "At Titan, I felt like just another number. Here, you know my name. That matters." Her words reminded me why I started Phoenix Rise in the first place. But deep down, I knew Michael wouldn't give up. Titan Elite had money, but it lacked soul. And when money failed to secure loyalty, Michael always turned to cruelty. Sure enough, the next blow came swiftly. One Monday morning, I unlocked the gym to find water flooding the floor. A pipe had burst in the storage room, but when the plumber inspected it, he frowned. "This wasn't an accident," he said. "Somebody tampered with it." My stomach dropped. Michael had crossed another line. As I stood ankle-deep in water, staring at the mess, rage surged through me. For years, he had stolen, lied, and manipulated. First the inheritance, now this. But looking at the ruined floor, I realized something. Every attack only made me stronger. Every attempt to break me forced me to fight harder. Wiping my hands across my wet leggings, I whispered to myself, "He doesn't know it yet." But he just made his biggest mistake. The morning after the flood, I stood in Phoenix Rise with a mop in my hands and tears threatening to spill. The gym smelled like mildew, the air heavy with dampness. Pieces of ceiling tile sagged overhead, water dripping in rhythmic plinks onto the ruined mats below. My dream, my sanctuary, looked like it had been gutted overnight. Katie walked in carrying coffee, her jaw tightening when she saw the damage. "Michael," she muttered under her breath. I dropped the mop and sank onto a bench, my soaked sneakers squeaking against the floor. "I can't keep doing this," I whispered. "Every time I take one step forward, he drags me back 3. Katie crouched in front of me, gripping my hands. "Lauren, listen to me. He wants you to feel like this. Defeated. If you give up now, he wins. And you're not a quitter. I've seen you push through worse than this." I shook my head, my voice cracking. "This isn't just about me anymore. My team depends on me. Clients depend on me. What if I let them all down?" Katie's eyes softened, but her voice stayed firm. "You won't, because you're not alone. Let us help." For days, the gym was a construction zone. Fans whirred loudly to dry the floor, the smell of disinfectant mixing with the metallic scent of tools. My staff showed up without being asked, scrubbing, hauling equipment, and repainting walls. Clients even dropped by with food, offering to roll up their sleeves and pitch in. One evening, as I watched Serena teach a class on the patched-up mats, I realized something powerful. Michael could break pipes, spread lies, and sabotage equipment, but he couldn't destroy the spirit of Phoenix Rise. This place wasn't just a business. It was a family. Still, the financial strain was crushing me. Repairs drained my savings, and the insurance company dragged their feet, investigating whether the damage was accidental or deliberate. My credit cards filled with charges for new flooring, plumbing, and equipment. At night, I sat at my kitchen table surrounded by bills, the numbers swimming in front of me. The breaking point came one Thursday afternoon. I had just finished a personal training session when my phone buzzed with a notification. Overdraft alert. My heart sank as I opened the banking app. My account was negative. Again. I walked into my office, closed the door, and pressed my forehead against the desk. For the first time since this war began, the thought crossed my mind. Maybe Michael's right. Maybe I should close up before I embarrass myself further. The knock on my door startled me. It was Serena. "Hey, a client wants to talk to you," she said gently. "I can't right now," I muttered, not lifting my head. Serena hesitated, then stepped inside. "Lauren, it's Angela. She's crying in the lobby. I think you should see her." Reluctantly, I dragged myself up and walked out. Angela, the young mom who had switched from Titan Elite, stood near the front desk, her hands wringing nervously. "What's wrong?" I asked. She bit her lip, eyes brimming with tears. "I just wanted to say, thank you. Before I came here, I felt invisible. At Titan, no one even noticed if I showed up. Here, you learned my name on the first day. You noticed when I pushed harder, and you encouraged me when I wanted to quit. You changed my life, Lauren." Her words hit me like a lifeline thrown to a drowning person. My throat tightened, and for a moment I couldn't speak. Then I pulled her into a hug. "Thank you," I whispered. "You don't know how much I needed to hear that." That night, I made a decision. If Michael wanted to break me, he'd have to do more than drain my bank account or vandalize my gym. He'd have to kill the fire in me, and that wasn't going to happen. I opened my laptop and began researching investors. If Phoenix Rise was going to survive, I needed backing. I needed someone who believed in the vision as much as I did. Katie walked in with takeout, her eyebrows shooting up when she saw the spreadsheets on my screen. "You're finally ready?" she asked. "Yes," I said firmly. "No more patching holes while Michael tries to sink the ship. It's time to expand, to grow bigger than he ever imagined. If he wants a war, I'm going to win it by building something he can't touch." The next weeks were a blur of meetings. I pitched to small business investors, health-focused venture groups, and even wealthy clients who had become friends. Some turned me down, politely explaining the risk. But others leaned forward, their eyes lighting up when I spoke about community, resilience, and transformation. One afternoon, I pitched to a retired basketball player named Marcus Harris, who now ran a foundation supporting wellness programs in underserved neighborhoods. "Your passion reminds me of my early career," Marcus said, tapping a finger against the table. "You're not just building a gym, you're building a movement. I'm in." With his investment, along with contributions from a few others, Phoenix Rise had a second chance. We upgraded equipment, added childcare services, and opened a small juice bar in the lobby. Word spread quickly, and membership soared, but success brought new battles. Michael wasn't done. One morning, I walked outside to find a black SUV idling near the gym. A man in a suit handed me an envelope and drove off without a word. Inside was a cease and desist letter claiming that Phoenix Rise had stolen proprietary training methods from Titan Elite. I laughed bitterly. Michael was grasping at straws. Still, lawsuits were expensive, even frivolous ones. I called Thomas, my lawyer, who groaned when he read the letter. "This is nonsense. He doesn't own squats and burpees. We'll crush it in court." Despite his confidence, my stomach churned. Every attack cost me time, money, and energy. But now, with Marcus and other investors on board, I had more than just Katie at my side. I had an army. The lowest moment came not from Michael, but from within myself. One night I returned home late, dropped onto my couch, and stared at the ceiling. Exhaustion weighed heavier than any barbell I'd ever lifted. I whispered into the darkness, "Why am I still doing this?" The answer came in flashes of memory. The little girl I'd once been, standing beside my father's casket as Michael smirked at me. The years of scraping by, teaching classes in rented basements, Angela's tears of gratitude, Serena's steady loyalty, Katie's unwavering friendship. I sat up, wiped my eyes, and whispered again, but this time with strength. Because they need me, and because I refuse to let him win. The next morning, I arrived at Phoenix Rise with renewed energy. The sun cast golden light across the building's glass windows, and for the first time in months, I felt hope instead of dread. Katie met me at the door, handing me a smoothie. "You look different," she said with a grin. "I feel different," I replied. Because the truth was, I'd been broken, bent, and bruised. But I wasn't destroyed. I was stronger, and Michael was about to find out just how strong. The first hearing for Michael's lawsuit was scheduled for a Tuesday morning. I woke before dawn, my chest tight, my hands trembling as I pulled on a charcoal blazer. Katie met me outside the courthouse, her presence grounding me. "You've got this," she said, squeezing my arm. Inside, the air was thick with stale coffee and fluorescent light. Michael sat at the opposite table, sharp suit, smug grin, and a lawyer whose shoes probably cost more than my car. He looked up, caught my eye, and mouthed, "This is the end for you." But when the judge entered, banging the gavel, I forced myself to remember every face at Phoenix Rise, every person who had fought beside me. I wasn't standing here for myself. I was standing for them. Michael's lawyer spoke first, rambling on about intellectual property and training models, as though he'd invented the concept of push-ups. My own lawyer, Thomas, cut through the nonsense with calm precision. "Your Honor," he said, "fitness routines are not patentable. What Mr. Anderson is attempting is not protection of property. It's harassment." The judge looked over the documents, raised an eyebrow, and sighed. "This case is dismissed. With prejudice." The gavel came down. Just like that, Michael's latest attack had crumbled. Outside, the sunlight felt sharper, brighter. Katie whooped and threw her arms around me. "Lauren, you crushed it!" But Michael stormed out behind us, his face red. "This isn't over," he hissed, leaning close enough that I could smell his expensive cologne. "I'll bury you," I held his gaze. "You've already lost. You just don't know it yet." For the first time, I saw a flicker of doubt in his eyes before he turned and stalked away. With the lawsuit dismissed, momentum shifted. Membership at Phoenix Rise soared, and our classes overflowed with energy. We started a scholarship program for teens who couldn't afford gym memberships, funded partly by Marcus's foundation. Seeing those kids, awkward at first, then glowing with confidence, reminded me why I'd chosen this fight. But with growth came pressure. More clients meant more demand, more responsibilities. One evening, after coaching back-to-back classes, I collapsed into my office chair, staring at the spreadsheets piling up. Serena knocked softly before poking her head in. "Boss, you need rest." I rubbed my temples. "I'll rest when this war's over." She stepped inside, crossing her arms. "You talk like Michael still has power. He doesn't. You've got investors, a full house, a loyal team. Why are you still letting him rent space in your head?" Her words hit harder than she realized. I had been living every day bracing for his next move, like a boxer waiting for the next punch instead of throwing my own. That night, I lay awake replaying her question. Why are you still letting him rent space in your head? The answer came during a Saturday morning boot camp. I stood at the front of 30 clients, shouting encouragement as sweat dripped down their foreheads. In their determination, I saw myself, broken, doubted, but refusing to quit. Michael could no longer define me. His voice, his sabotage, his cruelty, it wasn't the story anymore. I was the story. That afternoon, I called a team meeting. Everyone gathered in the studio, still smelling faintly of rubber mats and cleaning spray. I've been running this gym like we're under siege, I admitted, always looking over my shoulder, waiting for Michael's next move. But that ends now. From today forward, we draw a line in the sand. Phoenix Rise isn't about surviving. It's about thriving. Katie raised a fist. Yes, Serena grinned. About time, boss. Of course, Michael didn't vanish. He sent spies, former clients, employees he'd fired, into my classes, pretending to be interested in memberships. But I trained my staff to spot them. We welcomed them, treated them with respect, and eventually many admitted the truth. They preferred our community. Michael's paranoia had driven them away. One evening, as I was locking up, I found a note taped to the front door. The handwriting was jagged, angry. You think you've won, but you'll never escape me. I'll take everything from you, just like before. My hands shook as I held the paper, but instead of fear, a strange calm settled over me. He was desperate now, and desperate men made mistakes. The next week, an opportunity came that shifted everything. A local news station invited me to speak about Phoenix Rise's scholarship program. Standing in front of cameras, sharing my story with thousands of viewers, I felt my voice grow steadier with each word. I built this gym because I know what it's like to feel invisible, I said, to be told you don't matter, that you'll never succeed. But here, everyone matters. Here, everyone rises. The segment aired that night, and the response was overwhelming. Emails flooded in. Membership requests doubled, and even schools reached out about partnerships. Phoenix Rise wasn't just a gym anymore. It was becoming a movement. Michael must have seen the broadcast too, because the very next day, he barged into Phoenix Rise. My staff froze as he strode across the lobby, his face twisted with fury. "Lauren!" he barked. "We need to talk." I stepped out of my office, my heart pounding but my shoulders squared. "This isn't your place, Michael. Leave," he sneered, glancing around at the busy lobby. "Enjoy your little spotlight while it lasts. You think these people will stick around once they realize what you really are?" I tilted my head, forcing calm into my voice. "And what's that?" "A fraud," he spat, always playing the victim, always pretending you're better than everyone else. I stepped closer, lowering my voice so only he could hear. "I don't have to pretend. Look around you, Michael. This is real. These people are real, and you'll never take it from me." His face flushed crimson, and for a moment, I thought he might hit me, but then he turned on his heel and stormed out, shoving past Katie in the doorway. Katie raised an eyebrow. "Well, that was dramatic," I exhaled slowly. That was him realizing he's already lost. That night, I wrote in my journal, something I hadn't done in years. Michael once told me I'd never amount to anything without him. But today, I see the truth. I've built something bigger than him, stronger than his lies. The line is drawn. From here on, it's not about fighting him. It's about building us. And with that, I closed the book and finally felt free. The weeks after Michael's outburst at Phoenix Rise felt like a shift in the air, as if the storm clouds that had shadowed me for so long were finally breaking apart. For the first time since inheriting nothing but bitterness from my family, I felt like I was truly steering my own life. Memberships poured in, and not just because of the TV segment. Word of mouth spread through Chicago like fire in dry grass. Friends told friends, who told coworkers, who dragged their reluctant spouses into classes. Soon, the front desk had waiting lists for every boot camp and yoga slot. One night after class, Serena came to me with a grin so wide I knew something big had happened. "We just hit 500 active members," she announced, shaking the numbers sheet at me. I blinked, stunned. 500? Yup. We're officially one of the biggest independent gyms in the city. And she leaned in conspiratorially. Our profit margins are healthy enough that we can expand. You ready to talk about a second location? The idea made my heart race. For years, I'd been playing defense, clawing back scraps of dignity while Michael tried to crush me. Now, the thought of expansion wasn't just a fantasy, it was possible. We celebrated that night with cheap pizza and sparkling water. Katie raised her slice like a toast. To Lauren, she said, for proving that what rises from the ashes can't be burned again. I laughed, but the words lodged in my chest like an anchor of truth. I had risen. We all had. Still, success didn't erase the wounds. My nights were often restless, filled with dreams of Michael slamming doors or whispering lies into my ear. Trauma lingers even when life is moving forward. During one of those nights, I found myself sitting on my balcony, wrapped in a blanket, staring at the Chicago skyline glowing orange under the city lights. My phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. I'm proud of you. The world needs more leaders like you. Don't let the shadows fool you. You've already won. I smiled, grateful. Sometimes the right words arrive when you need them most. At the gym, our scholarship teens became the heart of everything. I'll never forget the day Jamal, a 15-year-old who had been skipping school and drifting into the wrong crowd, pulled me aside. Coach, he said shyly, I got straight B's this semester. First time in my life. My eyes burned with tears. That's incredible, Jamal. You did the work. You earned it. He shook his head. Nah, it's because you believed in me. No one ever did before. That moment wasn't just about him. It was about me too. Every time I poured into those kids, I was rewriting my own childhood, where no one had believed in me. But Michael wasn't gone. One afternoon, Serena burst into my office with her phone in hand. Lauren, you need to see this. She played a video. Michael, standing in his empty, half-abandoned gym, ranting into a camera about how Phoenix Rise was stealing clients, and how I was a manipulative fraud. He even claimed I'd stolen money from my parents before their deaths. I felt heat rise to my face. He's spreading lies publicly now? Katie crossed her arms. Ignore it. Anyone who knows you won't believe it. But it wasn't that simple. The video had already gone viral among local fitness circles. Comments poured in. Some defending me, others parroting Michael's accusations. For a moment, the old panic rose in my chest, that fear of being cast out, humiliated again. But then I remembered. I'm not that scared girl anymore. I crafted a response video, standing in the very heart of Phoenix Rise. My voice was steady, my gaze locked on the lens. Some people will try to rewrite your story when they're losing their own. But the truth is written in action, not lies. At Phoenix Rise, our doors are open, our community is real, and every person here knows the value of hard work, honesty, and resilience. I ended with a sweeping shot of a packed class, laughter and sweat mixing in the air. This is who we are. And no rumor can erase it. The video gained triple the traction of Michael's rant, and for every nasty comment, 10 more flooded in with support. Clients shared their transformations. Teens wrote about the hope they'd found. And suddenly, Michael looked less like an authority and more like a bitter shadow. That same week, Marcus invited me to a gala hosted by his foundation. It was a glittering affair, with chandeliers casting golden light across marble floors, waiters in crisp black suits carrying trays of champagne. I felt out of place at first, my simple black dress not nearly as glamorous as the gowns around me. But when Marcus introduced me as the woman rebuilding lives in Chicago, the applause that followed made me realize I did belong. Not because of my outfit, but because of my story. Later that night, an older woman approached me. I lost my daughter to drugs, she said softly. If she'd had a place like Phoenix Rise, maybe things would have been different. Thank you for what you're doing. I held her hand, my throat too tight to respond. The more success we found, the more I thought about my parents. How they'd chosen to believe Michael. How they'd written me out of their will as if I were nothing. For years, that betrayal had been the wound that wouldn't close. But standing in a room full of strangers applauding me, I realized something. My parents' rejection hadn't destroyed me. It had freed me. They had closed one door, and I had built an entirely new house. Still, Michael kept clawing. His gym finally shut down, but he popped up on smaller platforms, desperate for relevance. He sent emails under fake names, trying to trick my staff into handing over information. He even showed up outside Phoenix Rise one night, drunk, shouting slurs until the police escorted him away. Watching him unravel was painful, but not in the way he intended. It didn't weaken me. It showed me the truth. His empire was built on sand, and the tide had finally rolled in. One night after another full day at the gym, Serena and I stayed late, scrubbing mats and wiping mirrors. "Do you ever wonder what comes next?" she asked, leaning on her mop. "All the time," I admitted. She smiled. "Whatever it is, I'm in." For the first time, I didn't answer with fear or hesitation. I looked around at the gleaming gym, at the community we'd built, and said, "Then let's rise even higher." The line between past and present was clear now. Michael was part of my history, yes, but he was no longer the author of my story. I was. Every class, every client, every teen who found strength within these walls was a testament that betrayal doesn't have to be the end. It can be the beginning. And deep down, I knew the final chapter was coming, the moment when Michael would be forced to face the full weight of his actions, and I would finally be free. The final confrontation came on a cold, gray morning that seemed to echo every shadow of my past. Chicago's skyline was barely visible through the mist as I walked toward the courthouse, my coat pulled tight around me. Michael had pushed too far this time. His slander had spilled into official complaints, desperate attempts to sabotage Phoenix Rise through false accusations. He claimed I was committing fraud, laundering money through my gym, even exploiting minors. The lies were grotesque, but the consequences were real. A hearing had been scheduled, and the weight of it pressed down on me like a lead blanket. Inside the courthouse, the smell of polished wood and old paper mingled with the murmur of voices. Reporters loitered near the steps, cameras ready, sensing drama. When Michael arrived, flanked by his slick lawyer, he wore a smirk that twisted my stomach. He thought he'd finally cornered me, that the same tactics he'd used to poison my parents against me would work again. But this time I wasn't alone. Serena stood at my side, folder in hand, ready with financial statements, contracts, and proof of every scholarship we'd given. Behind us sat dozens of Phoenix Rise members, students, parents, clients, even Jamal, dressed in his best shirt and tie. My community had come to show the court who I really was. The judge called us forward. Michael's lawyer opened with venom, painting me as a self-serving opportunist who preyed on vulnerable youth for profit. My stomach clenched, but I forced myself to breathe. I had prepared for this. When it was our turn, Serena laid out the evidence with calm precision. Every dollar accounted for, every program documented. Then Jamal stepped forward, his voice shaking but clear. "Coach Lauren saved me," he said, glancing nervously at the judge. "I was failing school. I was hanging with the wrong people. She gave me a place where I felt like I mattered. If you take that away from me, from us..." His eyes darted to the other teens seated in the gallery. "You're not just hurting her. You're hurting all of us." The courtroom fell silent. Even the judge leaned back, considering his words. Then it was my turn. I rose slowly, meeting Michael's gaze across the room. "For years," I began, my voice steady. "My brother has tried to destroy me. He lied to my parents, turned them against me, and when they passed, he ensured I was left with nothing. But instead of breaking me, it forced me to build something on my own. Phoenix Rise isn't just a gym. It's a sanctuary, a place where people find strength when the world tells them they're weak. Every person here is proof that the accusations against me are nothing but lies." I paused, letting the words settle. This isn't about fraud, it's about revenge, and it's time the court saw it for what it is. Michael's smirk faltered for the first time. He shifted in his seat, jaw tight. His lawyer tried to recover, but the damage was done. The judge dismissed most of the accusations outright, citing lack of evidence. What remained would be reviewed, but it was clear Michael's case was collapsing. When the gavel struck, relief flooded me so hard I nearly staggered. The gallery erupted in soft applause until the bailiff silenced them. But I didn't care. I had survived. Outside, the reporters swarmed. Microphones thrust toward my face. "Lauren, do you have a statement?" I glanced at Michael, who was storming down the courthouse steps, red-faced and muttering curses. For once, I didn't feel the need to lash back. Instead, I looked into the cameras and said, "Truth doesn't need to shout. It stands on its own." The word spread across local news by evening. Headlines praising not just my victory, but the resilience behind it. Michael's reputation, already fragile, crumbled further. Former clients of his gym came forward with their own stories of being cheated or mistreated. His downfall was no longer my battle. It was his own making. But the reckoning wasn't just public. It was private, too. A week later, I received a letter. Not from Michael, but from his wife. The handwriting was shaky. The words uneven. "Lauren, I can't stay silent anymore. Michael's anger has consumed everything. He's lost his gym, his reputation, and now he's losing his family. The children are scared of him. I should have spoken up years ago. I'm sorry for the part I played in enabling his lies. If you're willing, I'd like to meet, not for him, but for the kids." I read it 3 times, my heart torn. Part of me wanted to throw it away, to refuse any contact with someone who had stood by Michael through years of cruelty. But another part, the part that had built Phoenix Rise on second chances, hesitated. In the end, I agreed to meet her in a quiet cafe. She looked worn, dark circles under her eyes, hands trembling around her cup. "He's not the man I married," she whispered. "I don't know who he is anymore, but I can't let him destroy our children the way he tried to destroy you." I nodded slowly. "Then protect them. That's your reckoning, not mine." Tears slipped down her cheeks as she whispered, "Thank you." The final blow came not from me, but from the very community Michael had underestimated. A petition circulated, demanding he be barred from opening any new business in the fitness industry. Hundreds signed, citing unethical practices and abusive behavior. Local regulators took notice. By the time the process concluded, Michael's license to operate was revoked. He was finished. One evening, I stood in Phoenix Rise after closing, lights dimmed, the faint scent of chalk and sweat still hanging in the air. Serena joined me leaning on the doorway. "You did it," she said softly. I shook my head. "We did it," she smiled. "So what now?" I looked around the gym, at the walls lined with photos of smiling members, at the vision we had built brick by brick. "Now," I said, "we rise higher." The reckoning wasn't just about Michael facing consequences. It was about me finally realizing that I no longer needed his validation. Nor my parents, nor anyone else's. I had written my own legacy. And the final chapter, the true closure, was just ahead. The day of true closure didn't arrive in a courtroom or during a heated confrontation. It came quietly, on a warm spring afternoon when the gym was buzzing with energy. Kids running drills, adults spotting each other on the mats, and music thumping softly from the speakers. Phoenix Rise had never felt more alive. I had just finished coaching a session when Serena approached me, holding a folded envelope. "This came for you," she said, her expression unreadable. But I forced myself to open it. "Lauren, I don't expect forgiveness. I know I've burned every bridge, and I've lost everything trying to destroy you. But the truth is I destroyed myself. My wife left me, took the kids, and I don't blame her. I've been banned from working in the field I once loved, and all I see when I look in the mirror is a man who wasted his life on bitterness. You don't owe me anything, but I needed you to know. You won, not just against me, but against every obstacle I threw your way. I hope one day you find peace, even if I never will. Michael." I read the letter twice, emotions warring inside me. Part of me wanted to laugh at the irony. Another part wanted to crumple the paper and throw it away, but deep down I felt only a heavy kind of pity. Michael hadn't just been my enemy. He had been my brother once. I tucked the letter away in my office drawer, unsure what to do with it. Closure doesn't always come neatly wrapped. Sometimes it's jagged and unsatisfying. But I realized I didn't need his apology to move forward. I already had. Weeks later, I stood in front of a packed room at Phoenix Rise. It was our annual community event, a night where we celebrated progress, honored achievements, and shared stories of growth. The walls were lined with banners, the tables with food contributed by local families. The air buzzed with laughter and excitement. When it was my turn to speak, I stepped onto the small stage. The crowd quieted, their faces expectant. 8 years ago, I began. I was left with nothing. My family cut me out of the will, cast me aside, and told me I didn't matter. For a long time, I believed them. I thought their decision defined me. But what I've learned is this: no one gets to decide your worth except you. A murmur of agreement rippled through the audience. I built this place because I wanted to prove something, I continued. My voice strong. Not just to them, but to myself. That I wasn't worthless. That I could rise even when the world tried to bury me. But along the way, I discovered something more important. Phoenix Rise isn't about proving anyone wrong. It's about proving ourselves right. It's about community, resilience, and finding family in the people who lift us up, not tear us down. I looked out at Jamal, who stood tall now, no longer the uncertain boy I first met, but a confident young man. I saw Serena, my steadfast ally. I saw dozens of faces that had become part of my journey. You all are my family, I said, my voice breaking just slightly. And together we've built something stronger than any inheritance could ever give. The room erupted in applause. People rose to their feet, cheering, clapping, some even wiping tears from their eyes. In that moment, I felt lighter than I had in years. After the event, as the crowd dispersed, Jamal approached me with a nervous grin. "Coach," he said, "I got accepted into college." "Full scholarship," my eyes widened. "Jamal, that's incredible." He shrugged, trying to downplay it, but I could see the pride in his eyes. "Couldn't have done it without you?" I pulled him into a hug. "No, Jamal, you did it. You put in the work. I just gave you the tools." As he walked away, I realized that his success, his transformation, was my true inheritance. Not money, not property, not a will signed in secret. It was this: knowing I had made a difference. Knowing I had built a legacy through lives touched and futures changed. That night, alone in my office, I pulled out Michael's letter once more. I read it one final time, then placed it back in the drawer, not as a wound, but as a reminder of how far I had come and of what I would never allow myself to become. Healing doesn't mean forgetting. It means choosing not to let the pain control you anymore. I leaned back in my chair, listening to the faint echoes of laughter still drifting in from the gym floor. For the first time in years, I felt whole. The reckoning was done. The scars would remain, but they were no longer a source of shame. They were proof of survival. Proof of strength. I had lost everything once, but I had built it all back and more. And in doing so, I had taken back not just what was stolen from me, but my voice, my dignity, and my future. And if my story resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to hear that they too deserve respect and unconditional love. Because the truth is, family isn't defined by blood or inheritance. It's defined by loyalty, trust, and the courage to rise even when the world tries to push you down.